Framework?
Framework, and
It's going to be like 30 seconds to a minute of the criticism, and then the rest will be framework.
okay, is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I just kind of want to summarize, refer back to our Elbert and Zavarzadeh in 2008 card, basically where it talks about the affirmative rejection of binaries. Basically, when it comes down to a capitalist society, it comes down to those who sell labor power and those who purchase it. Like, essentially, all this argument is saying is like, no matter what the AF does, none of this will even matter, because all of the women that they are trying to empower sexually or spiritually will fall to the clutches of capitalism, which means all of the work that they are doing, the narratives they are reading, these empowering stories they are giving us, it will be for naught. Like, because capitalism is just going to take all of that and say, well, at the end of the day, like, you're still a sex worker, so go to work, like, we still need you to do this, this, and that, and the other, which means all their empowering really doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't do anything for them. Like, it gives them a false former sense of self, essentially. Like, because yeah, they're free, but they're not really free. They're free to identify as, you know, an empowered, you know, sexually liberated woman, but at the end of the day, they're still like falling to the clutches of capitalism. Like, they still link into that argument. Like, until they challenge that, which they haven't, don't even let them do it because it's already the negative block. It's too late. Like, until they, since they didn't challenge that, they completely and totally kind of agree. So I'm just going to go into frameworks. Basically, you can extend our limits arguments from Steinberg and Freely 8. All this is saying, like, their app is way too broad, and it has some really big claims to overcome some really big things, and, like, they don't really give you, like, a really kind of set method of how they do it. Like, they didn't say until the last, like, conversation that I had in the conference, like, oh, we do it through, basically, in the starting point with this in-round discussion. Like, I'm sorry, but this is not the first in-round discussion about women needing to be sexually liberated, especially women of color. Therefore, like, they have to show how this conversation that they're having is intrinsically different from any other conversation that has ever been had in a serious debate about women of color and how they deserve to feel sexually liberated. On to our O'Donnell and Ford evidence, like, we can't even extend that to, we can't even engage fully in this conversation because the app is allowed to choose a starting point. Like, they're allowed to pretty much jump around and be vague about it, but they solve for everything, and they solve for this something that is, they themselves say, it's been historically a part of this culture. Like, you plan to solve for all of that through this one conversation. Like, because you're the first group of girls to have this conversation, right? Like, come on. Moving on to our Lindenberg and Tin evidence about switch sides debate, like, they can easily run this as an egg. Like, they can still, like, we still endorse their thinking while voting nay. Like, it is not, like, it's abusive to us when they're running this on the app, because it's like, first of all, I'm a woman of color. Like, I'm never gonna say, like, no, like, you don't deserve to have agency over your body as a fellow woman of color. Like, I'm never going to say that. My partner is never going to say that. You deserve to have agency over your body as much as I deserve to have agency over my body. However, like, it's abusive to completely and totally in this round for you to run this on the app, because it gives us really no ground to argue against. Like, I'm never going to say, like, oh, you know, yes, you're a woman of color, just like I'm a woman of color, but you don't deserve agency over your body. And then I go into other debate rounds and say, but I deserve agency over my body. Be on the critical thinking point. Like, we can only deliberate effectively in switch sides debate. Like, this round is essentially proof. Like, we haven't even been able to really engage in their whole debate because, like, we have this whole issue of, like, we don't have any ground to stand on, like, for real. Like, all we have is this framework argument in this K. Like, it's really not a lot. You can, that's the killer in all evidence. Moving on to the effective decision making outweighs Steinberg and Freely 08 card. Basically, like, in order to make effective decisions, we have to know what the heck they're talking about. Like, we just discovered, like, this is, like, an in-round discussion because their method was not clear to me. Like, if you're really going to be advocating for this, like, you need to tell me, like, why your method is important, and you need to tell me, like, not even that, like, you really don't even, like, all you have to do is tell me how you get it done. Like, just explain to me, like, in this in-round discussion, like, what that actually does outside of this room. Like, how are your impacts, like, how this conversation will impact anything outside the room. Like, just do that. Just do that. Like, and explain to me how, like, what you're doing won't allow this women basically to still fall into the clutches of capitalism. Like, if you can do all of that with this one in-round discussion, then we have no problem. However, like, what has been intrinsically proven is that you can't. Like, capitalism is a big argument. Like, it's a really big thing that's been embedded into our society, and you don't solve for any of it through this one in-round discussion, especially if you're not calling for anything. All you're basically calling for is that women have, agency over their body, which is a great thing. However, your method is not clear on how you get it done. You say, well, it comes from these myths. We need to change those myths. Okay. Like, how does that get done? Like, is there a head over myths that we go to and talk to? And, like, he's like, I'm going to go back in time and, like, rewrite the story of myths so that way women have sexual agency over their body. Like, what does this look like in the world of the app? Like, what does your world look like where women have sexual agency over their bodies? Like, how did they get that done? Like, if I have a great-great-great-granddaughter in the future, will she be able to go to a museum someday and learn about the method in which you, like, got rid of these myths and how turned it into, like, where women can have sexual agency over their bodies, especially women of color. Like, I want you to have a tour guide there that can actually explain this whole entire freaking thing to my great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, because it's going to take you years to get done, and you can't simply get it done through this in-round conversation, because I assure you, you are not the first person to start it. So I need you to prove to these judges and really forget us. Prove to these judges why you deserve to win in this round, because you solve for capitalism, because you do all these great things. Thank you.